How's it growing? Urban homesteader, author, speaker Cynthia Schaefer gave an amazing talk to the Rare Fruit and Vegetable Council about her new book, Food Steading: How to Create Abundant Food Right Where You Live. I have a shorter version linked in the description below. This is her full presentation. Let's get right to it.
Without any further ado, Cynthia.
Thank you. We're going to talk about food systems, but before I do that, I want to mention an organization, a nonprofit that I volunteer with called The Caring Community. And the Caring Community has a couple of gardens that we grow food for food banks. We pick unwanted fruit from people's backyards with their permission, and we take it to food banks. We have a program for teachers. And this year, in October, we're hoping to launch a 100 garden giveaway. We're going to be giving away 100 mini food forests in an appreciation to our community and to help those who don't have regenerative growing. We want to give them an opportunity and a little bit of guidance. So we're pretty excited about that. Our amazing volunteer coordinator, stand up, Susan, is back there, and at the end she's going to take your name and information if you want to volunteer with us. Our impact in 2020 and 2021 combined with all volunteers, nobody gets paid, we got 26,000 pounds of food to food banks. So we're pretty excited about that. So, food systems. We're all familiar with the food system where we go to the grocery store. And maybe 50 or 100 years ago, there was food at the grocery store. But what you find now is mostly processed food, and we all know what that does to the human body. There is a regenerative gardening system that we can use to create a very different food system, and that will enable us to not only help with some of the challenges that we're facing, such as supply chain issues, food corruption, and all these other things that are keeping us from having vital wellness in our food chains, and also food inflation. There's a lot of families suffering, so the more that we can take off the system by growing our own food, the more we're doing great things for people. Like my remote, isn't that cool? One of the things I think happens is I think people think that if you're eating out of your garden, you know, you're eating tomatoes and kale, and a lot of us have not yet embraced the amazing wonderfulness of South Florida. So who has eaten an elderflower pancake? Okay, who has eaten a breadfruit pancake? Okay, Kareem, can you fix that? The only ingredients are an egg from my chickens, ripe breadfruit flour, baking powder, coconut milk, and a little bit of cinnamon. And you're going to be surprised at how sweet and flavorful breadfruit is. What about flatbreads and dumplings? Has anyone made flatbreads, dumplings, or pasta from cassava flour, Malanga flour, anything like that? Okay, awesome. What did you make?
Dumplings.
Dumplings. How'd they turn out?
Very good.
Fabulous. Which one did you use?
I use cassava.
Okay. Cassava and Malanga here, they almost grow themselves, right? So why would we be buying flour when we can just grow it? And once you've turned your root vegetable into a flour, then you've got a much longer shelf life. And what we really need for our food system is we need a lot of creative people experimenting and bringing us recipes. I'm going to be experimenting a little bit. I want to play with some of the different, like powdered moringa and things inside of the flatbreads. So there's a lot of room for innovation in our food system, and we just need to play with our food. And I know your mother told you not to, but we need to play with our food, and then we need to share the knowledge that we gain from that. Here's the reason why eating local, regenerative, grown food is so important. Diversity. It's not just about the diversity in your garden. It's the diversity in your gut. And it's all interconnected. So first we need soil diversity, right? Soil diversity gives us diversity of nutrients in our food, which then gives us diversity in our guts. There's actually some gut bacteria that is fundamentally extinct. So L-reuteri is a gut bacteria that is fundamentally extinct, and it has indicated for immune health. It helps with the thymus, regenerate the thymus. So we have really very little knowledge on what the bacteria really do for us, and healthy gut bacteria is tied into healthy mind, healthy immune system, healthy everything. If you don't have a healthy gut biome, you're really going to be struggling to stay healthy. Who's had a superfood?
Oh yeah, everybody.
Right? But here's the thing about superfoods, and I'm going to go off a little bit on some herbalism. Every plant has constituents, right? These can be terpenes and alkaloids and tannins, polyphenols, all these things that are in the plant that are awesome for our bodies. Most medicines have been made from plants. Metformin, one of the most widely used drugs for diabetes, comes from goat's brew. We all know aspirin comes from white willow bark, etc., etc. But plants in their whole form have a lot of different components and constituents. And when we take one out and we concentrate it, we put it in the human body, we're messing with the balance of the human body. So what happens is you fix one thing and you break something else. Every plant has an effect on the body. Every bite of food that you take is designing your future. So regeneratively grown food is not only giving you future health, it's also giving future health to the planet. And it's really, really important that we get this. So there's a theory, Dr. Bruce Ames, the triage theory of micronutrients. And what it says basically is, in the event of a lack of micronutrients, the body prioritizes current needs over future needs, which is why in my wellness consultation hat, I see people all the time that in their 30s and 40s and 50s, they're starting to have this cascade of all of these things going wrong in the body. And it's just like maintaining your house, right? If you're not maintaining your house on a regular basis, it does no good to wait until the roof falls down and then try to fix the leak in the plumbing. When you feed your body these foods, and I'm kind of anti-superfood, and the reason I'm anti-superfood is because it gives people the impression, just like pharmaceuticals give the impression, that there's one thing that you can do that will change everything. And that's not how the body works. These are superfoods. And it's no good to sit down and spend 3 days eating one of these foods on its own. The key, again, is diversity. So I want you to think, when you go to put something in your mouth, food, I want you to think about things like, when's the last time I ate this? Where'd it come from? What kind of soil was it grown in? And the more diversity that you can get into your body, the more you have this wonderful pharmacopoeia inside of you that will take care of the repair and maintenance. And then the roof won't fall in.
What are these foods?
Well, that's a salad from my garden. That's some papaya, chaya, I think, or chayote. I make slaws from different things.
Everglades tomatoes?
Everglades tomatoes over here, that's the strawberry tree. pumpkin fruit, elderberry, West Indian. Chayote. Has anybody grown chayote? Okay, I love you. So chayote, if you slice it thin, saute it with just a little bit of cinnamon and some maple syrup, it's an amazing breakfast food. But the point is, again, superfoods. They are all superfoods. And the way that you create wellness is by creating this diversity. You have to eat 8 oranges today to get the same amount of vitamin A that you would have gotten 100 years ago in 1 orange. If it isn't in our soil, how can it be in our food? That's really, really important. And a lot of the organic people are still monocropping, which I understand because we can't change our food system overnight. But monocropping, even if you're doing it organically, is still problematic for the health of the entire system. So when you look at you as a human being, right? You're a system. You're a compilation of a lot of different systems. Your circulatory, your respiratory, all those systems. Nature is a system too. And we have to work with that system because we evolved with that system, and that system keeps this system peak wellness. You can also have a little fun in the garden. This comes with a warning. This is going to be very spicy. You want to put it on your spoon. What happened was I thought I was making black sapote wine, but my yeast was old, so I ended up making black sapote vinegar. I didn't want to throw away 3 gallons of vinegar, but it takes a while to use 3 gallons of vinegar. So what I did was I infused it much like a fire cider. Has anyone ever had fire cider? Okay.
I have.
It's a great medicinal. So I made it a fire cider medicinal, but I went really, really heavy on the hot peppers because that's what I had. One of the joys of making things from your garden is this innovation. I guarantee you, not one of you on the planet has ever tasted black fire before. And that's what you can do in your garden. Now, it's a little earlier, I would drop wine, because there's so much fruit waste that we can turn into wine. And the black sapote wine, which I did do successfully the second time, the black sapote wine was actually made from the peels and the seeds. So you know how when you process black sapote, you never get all of the flesh off of it. So I turned it into wine, and it was fabulous. This is Lipia moringa tea that she's going to be passing around. And the reason that I made the tea is I want you all, when you think about health of your body and what you're putting in your body, there's different ways to put food and to put that nutrition, those constituents into your body. And teas are a great way of doing that. There's so many things that we grow that you can just steep in some hot water and you've got a fabulous tea. So the tea you're drinking is Lipia alba with some moringa, and Lipia alba is good for blood pressure. So if you have low blood pressure, you probably don't want to drink a ton of it. So again, if it isn't in our soil, it is not in our food. And more importantly, without healthy soil, we're doomed. And everybody knows about the biome of healthy soil. So for example, in a teaspoonful of soil, there are as many microorganisms in a teaspoon of soil as there are people on the planet. That's a lot of biological life going on there. And so what we're really doing, just like with our bodies, we're really feeding our bacteria when we're taking care of a healthy body. We're feeding the bacteria in the soil. You are feeding the soil web when you feed it. And besides the diversity of the healthy food, we really want to focus on those water benefits because, as you know, here we're starting to experience the excess water. And of course, there's droughts in a lot of places. Having a healthy soil web means that the land is better able to process and handle both excess and lack. Really important point. And then of course carbon. So every time you see a developer going along and plowing, bulldozing up that land, they're releasing massive amounts of carbon. As we garden regeneratively, we are creating more carbon sinks. So this is farmland decreasing. Now this is good news, bad news. Good news is that probably means there's less conventional monocropping going on. The bad news is we cannot transform overnight. It needs to be a slow and gradual process. And we all, I'm sure you're aware, there's a lot of investment and corporations coming into farmland. And I spent 23 years as a financial advisor, whenever money becomes the only metric, then the stakeholders get really, really injured by that. So we want to be aware of that. But the good news is diverse landscapes can grow so much more in a small area. This is just like a small part of my yard. I've got 2 types of cowpeas. There's eggplant in there, there's a tree tomato, there's turmeric and ginger, and some amaranth and some spinach. Probably other things, but which one of these do you think is going to support life on the planet?
Right. The one on the left.
You need to take a big spoonful of fireside. It's good for your circulation.
Can't breathe.
Regenerative farming is spreading across the land. And I got this from regenerativefarminginternational.org or regenerativeinternational.org. So these practices of focusing on the regeneration of the earth are spreading, and it's really fabulous. Sometimes I have this dream. Of, oh my gosh, what if there were places that were everywhere where we could put in regenerative gardens? What if there were spaces that were underutilized and in fact damaging our environment? What if there were these places somewhere that we could find somehow, I don't know where we could take land that is being used inappropriately and make it regenerative? Because if we all just took 10 or 20% of that mess and turned it into a regenerative garden, and if you don't want to grow food, put in a butterfly garden, even an ornamental garden done regeneratively is going to provide so much good for the landscape. So my basic philosophy, because I'm a simple person who was kind of lazy, my basic philosophy is, what would the forest do? If it doesn't happen in the forest, it's probably not going to happen in my yard. And what does that mean? So soils don't get compacted in the forest. That's why I walk barefoot when I'm walking on Mother Earth whenever possible. And when soils do get compacted, either from foot traffic or a lot of rainfall, all I do is I take a pitchfork, right, and I stick it in the ground, and then I wiggle it, and then I move it forward 2 inches, and I do it again, and I wiggle it, and you just walk around doing that. It's very zen and very rewarding. Healthy soil web, that means that you are feeding that bacteria. Animal manures are great to feed bacteria. There's a practice called Korean natural farming, and they have a lot of great videos on Facebook. They have a Facebook group. Basically, again, cultivate that bacteria. Don't worry about anything else. Okay, get prepared to hate me. Plants solve their own problems. How many of you want your best friend or your child to marry somebody who had everything given to them their entire life and never had to work for it? Anybody? No, because adversity creates good things. We'll just leave it like that. So I want to explain a little bit more about the constituents of plants. I think we have an herbalist in the audience. The constituents of plants vary for a million different reasons. So you can take 10 rosemary plants, for example, and you can put them in different conditions, and then when you test the constituents, you will find different ratios and different levels. And the reason for that is the plant responds to its environment, and the way a plant responds, they can't really like, I'm done, walk away. They have to solve the problem right where they are. So when you let a plant, obviously when we put in seedlings, we gotta baby them a little bit. But once a plant gets established, if you water it every day, how are those roots going deep down into the earth to make the plant not only more stable, but to get those deeper nutrients? If you pick off every bug that comes on that plant, how is that plant going to know to create the chemical constituents that are going to repel that insect or call in the predator? Plants have these amazing communication-driven lives. They communicate underground through the mycorrhizal network, and they communicate above ground through chemical signals. So for example, let's say there's a green hornworm, which we all love, right? On our tomato plant in the front yard. Murderer. When the plant starts getting eaten, it is telling the world with its chemical signals, the green hornworms are here. It's changing to either be less attractive to that hornworm or to call in the predator of that hornworm. So what do? What do? You kill it.
We leave them alone.
So if you murder that by hand, which I'm okay with hand picking versus, but never, ever, ever, ever spray any chemicals. But or even organic. I'm not a fan of even organic pesticides. But what you're doing, it's like there's this sensitive negotiation going on, right? Between the plant and the predator, and all this communication is happening, and you basically walk in and say, what about nukes? Is that going to create peace? I don't think so. So let your plants solve their own problems. Be prepared to lose a plant or two in the service of the greater good. And constant change. So your garden is always changing. And what I see a lot of people doing, and I understand, you have this beautiful tomato plant, you love it. You love it so much, and oh my God, the tomatoes are so good. And you know it's getting too hot for that tomato plant. But you're gonna baby it, and you're gonna just force it to produce past its prime. Or you're going to try to get it to alter its season. I get that. I really, really do. But why are you fighting nature? Because the more that you push the envelope, the more likely it is that you are bringing in problems. Because what do insects like? They like weak plants, right? They like the plants that are already struggling. And that brings me to animal and insect interaction. Does everybody here love somebody? Right? Does the person that you love have every quality you could ever ask for, and there's nothing they ever do that annoys you? So why do you freak out about a damn mosquito? Right? They're part of the system. You cannot stop your loved one from doing that annoying damn thing they do, and you cannot stop a healthy system from having insect activity. It is not going to happen. And the more we try to create that reality, the more damage we do to the abundant reality that we all share. And then lastly, let's respect the plants that show up. For me, there's a jar of weed. Grab the weed.
I wouldn't know what that looks like.
Weed. Wait, let me clarify. It's dollar weed. If you haven't tasted dollar weed, it's in the celery family. It's massively nutritious, and it's just one of many, many, many foods that are just out there inviting you to eat them. So what we've done with our food system is we have, because we want to be able to ship and pack and all these things, and we want it to be perfect, what we've done is we have evolved our food to have specific qualities. And in having those specific qualities, we are losing a lot of the chemical constituents that come about in other cases. If you want to see my head explode, come up to me with a picture of an insect and ask me if it's a friend or a foe. Because, again, if you don't have the complete system, you don't have the abundance and the vibrance that you need. And the thing that I think is really, really important that we recognize is diversity of insects is vital. So a diverse amount of insects create balance. One insect eats the other insect. And I want to talk about lovers. I miss my lovers. And if you want to hear something freaky, if you walk past like a tree and you hear this weird noise, like sandpaper whirring, that's lovers maybe. I know you've all needed that information. But lovers, I had them for 4 or 5 years. They would come, they would eat a lot, which is great because I have a lot. And then one year they just stopped showing up. I don't know why. I hope it's because they completed what they needed to do on my land and they moved on to another location. I really love and respect science, and I read a lot of science articles. But I also know that there is so much that we don't know. So you need the totality of the system. And we do not fully understand how the totality of the system is greater than the sum of its parts. And right now, scientifically, we know most of its parts. But the magic, the animation, how the system becomes alive, there's a moment when you have cultivated the system of letting the earth do what it does, watching the insects decimate your favorite crops, and scratching your arms off because of mosquitoes. There's this moment where you walk out and you realize you're part of it. Like, it's responding to you. You're responding to it. They say that the best fertilizer is the gardener's shadow. And I think that's really, really true. I got every morning and I just wander around and nibble this, nibble that. Because it's really, that's your world. Don't you want to know your world? Weeds are either food, medicine, or information. And the thing about medicine is, you know, the difference between poison and medicine is dosage, right? So a lot of things that are poisonous or unpleasant in great amounts are really efficacious in small amounts. So here, everyone loves this plant, right? Biden's alba, also known as Spanish needle, everybody's favorite. So you know what she's telling you when she shows up? She's telling you that you have a piece of land that nothing else is growing on, so she's going to grow there. And she's also the number 1 or 2 pollinator plant in our region, so let her go, let her go. She's medicinal. She has a lot of saponin, so if you eat too much of her, you might get a little tummy ache, but you can, you know how you make kale chips, right? You can take Barden's and you can toss it in a little oil, season it a little bit, put it in the oven, and make Barden's chips.
What are the only year-round pollen producing plants too for bees?
Exactly. Thank you, David. We just tasted her. What did you guys think of Dollarweed? You can tell by the flavor that there is a lot of good stuff in there. So why would you cultivate and do all this hard work when Dollarweed is everywhere and comes all the time? Does anyone know Cucamelon? Cucamelon grows like that. It comes up on its own and it just presents you with cucumbers. So why wouldn't you love that weed? There's some Gideon weed, some West Indian wood nettle. I didn't know that was edible until a Russian woman came to my yard and said that they use it in cream soups. And it's quite delicious. And then above that, when it comes to medicine or information, Sida acuta. That is also known as Wireweed. And you've probably also cursed that in your garden. Because when you try to pull it up, it's really tough. It's got this deep root. And they call it wireweed because it's like trying to pull wire out of the ground. But it has a lot of great medicinal properties, including being anti-malarial. And when does it show up? It shows up in mosquito season. And I don't know if there's been any tests run on whether it's effective in the other mosquito-borne diseases, but I would assume that it probably is. So when you see a weed, don't be just like, trying to get it out of your garden. The other thing that's really important about weeds, naked soil is the worst thing you can do. Soil does not want to be naked. Don't get all focused on, I'm going to give my plant this big ring of, soil and there's nothing else growing but my plant. There are so many symbiotic relationships between plants that we do not yet understand. We know a little bit about companion planting for the plants that we think are worth eating, but there's so much more going on in the garden. So again, I'm not interested in being that smart and I'm kind of lazy. I'm going to let what shows up do its thing. If it gets too tall and I think it's getting in the way of the sun or something of a plant that I do want to give a little extra love to, I'll just clip it down and leave the root and ground. That brings us to the end. Do we have questions? Wow, I must be awesome.
Is it possible you can use weed as as a compost or fertilizer to help plants grow?
Absolutely. So a lot of the plants, so you'll see your landscape change. Purslane comes when you have really poor soil, right? And as your soil gets better, different plants come. When I chop and drop everything. I leave it right where it is unless it's an invasive and then I give it to the chickens and they make sure it doesn't come back. But yeah, absolutely.
Are there other kinds of teas you would recommend that we make from our yard, like lemongrass tea, etc.?
Absolutely. Even just your simple kitchen herbs, sage tea is known as wise woman tea. It's supposed to keep your hair from going gray, but I don't think it works. But it does help a lot with focus and concentration. Rosemary tea is great for depression. There's so many teas. You can, a lot of people make teas out of soursop leaves. Papaya leaves are supposed to be anti-parasitic. And the other thing I encourage you to do is when you see someone in the garden who is from a different culture than you drag them all around your garden and you ask them about everything, because I've gained so much knowledge from people of other cultures who have plants like ours.
So, I guess my question is, what you do for sand, do you do for muck, or is it different?
It's different because you want, with sand, you're focusing more on getting a lot of biomass in there to hold the water. With muck, you're focusing on getting things that are going to aerate the soil and let the water through. So you want to put in some deep-rooted plants to help with the water, and then you want to mix in something that's going to let the water pass through. So you got to loosen it up a lot maybe mix in a little bit of stone, or maybe find a friend who has too much sandy soil, and you guys can do a swap.
What a great idea.
Yeah.
Well, wouldn't compost be a remedy for both of those
Yes.
conditions? I've lived in, I've gardened in both conditions, and compost was my friend.
Compost is everyone's friend. And the thing about worms, so again, I'm lazy. I don't want to do vermiculture because that sounds like a whole lot of work. So what I did is I went to a bait shop and I bought a bunch of worms and they did free wiggly, and I just set them free and they have multiplied, and now I have lots and lots of worms. So worms are great also for monkey soil.
Have you had any luck or tried to find Asian vegetables or grown some of them?
So what I'm growing right now are cowpeas, which are great for the soil, and you get the beans. I have the Japanese green eggplant. I won't tell you what I call it. I have amaranth spinaches. Green papaya is great year-round.
Bok choy.
Bok choy, the mizunas. Yeah, I mean, there's a million things. Yes.
There are 2-3 vegetables that will really do good. One is, we call it snake grout. Local pest does not bother them. They grow very
Can you come
well.
up here and say that?
Snake grout, they have long with green with white streaks.
Oh, like
They
little beans?
do. No, not they are about this thick and about this long, and they do really well this, wet, humid, and no pest for them. So I grow them by tons. Just from one vine, I can get 5 to 10 pounds every week.
Oh, nice.
And then
How do you eat it?
I actually slice them, scrape the green part, slice them, and pan fry them. I can throw some coconut sometime, even I can throw some shrimp. It's great. Then there is something called rattlesnake beans.
Yep, Dave.
They do really great here, around there almost. All they need is water, and this is the best time. They don't have any pest problem. Then there is another thing, we call it raised okra, again long, it's a vine, and I put one plant. Every week I get anywhere from 7 to 14 pounds.
Wow.
So, and they don't have any pest.
Cynthia, how do you grow a chayote?
Chayote, oh, I love
And what's
her.
the season?
She's gonna start, I've got her, I just put her in, she's gonna start giving fruit in the shorter days, so probably October. And it's a vine that just goes on forever, and it's super, super versatile. I also put in an okra that's supposed to be actually a perennial, so I'll keep you posted on that one. And noodle beans, long beans, loving me some long beans this time of year. But chayote is a great crop. It'll climb on your roof if you let it, and it's just endless the amount of food it gives you.
I have a question of coyote. I planted them. In winter time, I saw some of the flowers, female flowers,
Yeah.
they did not set. Now in summer it's growing and there is no flower, there is nothing, but I'm eating their greens.
Yes.
I cook them, but there is no
Yeah,
no fruits.
And iguanas love the flowers and the tips. But if you grow it in an area where, like I grow mine on a trellis that's really wiggly, so that kind of keeps them from coming. But yeah, Chayote, I've had the best luck the second year of the vine. So if you can keep it going through summer, and it wants its feet kind of dry. It doesn't like wet feet.
What fertilizers if you're growing non-indigenous
Fertilizer.
fruit trees, which
Did
are
you
which
say
are
the F word?
yeah I did.
David?
It was It was the weed you gave me. I don't drop the F-bomb if I'm not smoking. I mean, eat weed.
So I have to hate you on a couple levels because I was really proud of myself that I got through an entire presentation without once mentioning weed. But
One in a crowd.
then you asked.
I mean, like mangoes, for instance. Like mangoes, unless you have a well-established soil, I mean, you're not going to get a good crop of mangoes off of that
That's why
sand.
you need a well-established soil. And the way you get a well-established soil is to feed the soil web. One of the things I do is I pee all over my yard. I just, in the backyard, it's private, I just pop a spot. Go ahead.
They say though, if you do that, you have to have a healthy diet though, right?
Well, I have a very healthy diet. And please do not ask me what my number 2 fertilizer choice is. So there's green manures, you know, Tithonia Mexican sunflower is fabulous. We all chop and drop our moringa. Comfrey is great. You just give it all back. Go ahead, Leah.
What do you do with your chicken manure? And how many chickens do you have? How much manure do you get out of it? What do you do with it? Do you find that that's important to have?
Yeah, I have 12 hens and a rooster, and I do the deep litter method, and I just, every 6 months or so, I'll shovel it out, put it around the yard, and put more litter in. I don't specifically do much, like I don't specifically compost it. I just let it compost in place. I let everything compost in place. Again, what would the forest do? How lazy are you? You're not lazier than I am, I promise you that. So, what would the forest do? What's the least I can do? And that's how you create a system.
The water weed you were talking about last, when you said it was anti-malaria, how would you make it, like a salve?
No, because it's not an insect repellent. You got to ingest it.
Okay.
So you can make it as a tea. You can eat the leaves.
Fresh or dry?
Either one. But if you are pregnant or trying to get pregnant, then you don't want to consume a lot of Sida. The other thing about letting the plants solve their own problems, like find their own fertilizer. My mango went to oak every other year. But last year, my medium-sized mango gave me over 500 pounds of mango.
Wow.
So, and I pee on it. I'm getting breadfruit like mad, and I just, we are part of the system. And I also, in my weird way, I like to think that when I am peeing on that tree, I'm giving tree information about me. And we're sharing information. And maybe it's altering its chemical composition to meet my needs. Crazy? Maybe. But why wouldn't it? Plants alter their chemical composition all the time. That's why you want to stress them a lot. Grape winemakers love it when it's really dry before a grape harvest. Because not only are the grapes sweeter, but they're higher in resveratrol. But if you think, I'll just go out and supplement me some resveratrol. Resveratrol has recently been found to have, if you take resveratrol, it's going to impact some of the other positive effects of your exercise. So you see, every study that comes out shows us something that was wrong about the study before. So, I'm not smarter than Mother Earth. I'm just going to eat all the great stuff she gives me and let my body figure it out. And so far, it seems to be working really, really well for me because I feel fabulous. Yes?
How long have you been living like that, like you say?
Probably about a decade full on. I started a few years ago, I do an Eat From Your Yard challenge. And the first year I did it, I lived on chaya and green papaya for a month.
And now you don't do that.
I'd get 1 or 2 pieces of fruit and it would be like magic. But now I have so much food, so I take the month before Thanksgiving and I eat only what I've produced. But I have a freeze dryer, I have flour, I have so much food, it's incredible. And I only have a third of an acre, and on that third of an acre I have a big house, I have a pool, I have a chicken coop, so, and I've got 20-some fruit trees. I think we're done. Next time I'll bring wine. Thank you so much. My books are in the back. I have 2 books. Your Food is Your Future is about why you need to do this, and Food Studying is about how you need to do this. And I'm going to thank Kareem and this whole Rare Fruit and Vegetable Council because they have supported our nonprofit and the work we do to grow food many, many times, and we're deeply grateful.
Our pleasure. Please support Cynthia. Buy her book.
Cynthia is such an amazing asset to our community, and I think anyone who knows her would agree with that. If you'd like to buy one or both of her recently published books, I'll have the links in the description below. Of course, this helps support Cynthia's work, and at no extra cost to you. Since these are affiliate links, your purchase helps support the mission of this channel so that I can continue making videos like this. Another way that you can help support the channel is very simple. Just click like on the video and subscribe to the channel. Also, check out Cynthia's Urban Homestead series right up here. Thank you for your support. Live regeneratively and let's grow together.